So it's another Thursday night. We start our session off by recapping what we had once done in the last section. We talk about the house and how we should go back because there was that cellar door that we hadn't entered yet. We all agreed, but I decided I wanted to go to the blacksmith first to get some items that would be pretty nice to upgrade, mainly my rapier and my hand crossbow. And I picked up a couple extra arrows and a couple new lockpicks while I was there. After that, we head down the road back to the house. We enter through the window that we had once all jumped through. A lot less destructive this time, more methodical. We enter into the house and we see the decaying demon carcass. I decide I want to take its tentacle arms and use them for my own personal value. In my head, I thought I could create a golem monster out of them with some necromancy from, maybe a necromancer I found throughout the dungeon. Of course, that may or may not happen, but it was a cool idea in theory. We enter the cellar door that we once had left unopened. We enter this massive cave system under the entire village. And by massive, I mean this thing was enormous. We were all surprised that the village had not fallen underground from what little ground they were above. But I digress. We continue through this cave system, slaughtering a few bandits here and there, basic chainmail, axe, sword wielding bandits. Then we get to a room with a demon cultist and a few bandits in it, a couple archers, not much else. It wouldn't have been a bad battle if Leo didn't shadow step behind the demon cultists and alert everyone in there, causing us to kind of be forced into an encounter. Leo takes a lot of damage. So, he casts magical darkness. It surrounds the demon cultist and about 7 of the bandits that were in this room. Well, the bandits didn't roll high enough to see in the darkness, but the demon cultist did. So Leo still took an absurd amount of damage, but luckily Leo could see. So he was eventually able to take out the demon cultist. Zilla, Mai, and I decide we're going to take out the rest of the archers and then try to help Leo in the darkness. After we take those bandits out, I put the tentacles on my arm and I run into the darkness, hoping I could scare what little bandits were left. It kind of worked out, considering they were already intimidated by Leo from a speech he caused, but it wasn't really much. Mainly because I rolled super low on seeing in the darkness, and I just kind of flailed around. But I do hit a few of the bandits with the tentacles, causing them to kind of freak out, and making them go into the fetal position, allowing Leo to just chop their heads off with what little sanity I could say he had. But we beat the encounter. Leo eventually pushed me out of the darkness so I could see again, and I put the tentacles back in my bag. I explained to the group that my idea was super cool and super worth it. They just look at me disgusted and weirded out. Can't really blame them too much. So we decide to look through the rest of the cave system to find out what little is left. But before we could get to the end, there's this black knight, who, before could talk, Mai shot a fireball at, and he ate it. Literally absorbed it with his face. He took 0 damage, and we all were terrified, because if Mai can't shoot a fireball, what are we to do? So he tries to follow us throughout the dungeon while we're running away, doing what we can to just kind of avoid this man. And Zilla gets the bright idea, what if I offer him a pony over killing us? She rolls high enough on talking to him. He accepts, but instead of taking the pony, he decides not to take our lives because we're not willing to fight him and he wants a true challenge. Which was great for us because we ran the fuck out of that cave system and back to the pub. When we got to the pub, we were greeted by a woman named Hadassah and the man named Hashiman. It will be very important later. Hadassah explains to us that her village was slaughtered by followers of Grima. She wants to find anyone and everyone that's alive after the Grima execution. We agree and she joins us. We adopt her to the group and we go on our next quest. A quest to a dungeon to clear out whatever darkness is within. Now, of course, we didn't expect a whole lot, but we should have from the DM, considering the DM's kind of an asshole in this situation after the last part, but we didn't let that get to us. We get into this dungeon, and there's not a whole lot at first. Not many demons, not many bandits, not many anything. We could just kind of follow this small, slight open, cave, and then it hits us. We get to 4 different paths. They fork off in many different directions within those certain paths. So, we take the one that we could see obviously had an end with 2 doors at the end of it. One door was unlocked, one door was locked. I decide to unlock the locked door, thinking there might be some massive treasure behind it. I roll high enough to unlock it, I open the door, and there's this giant minotaur staring back at me. I look at him, he looks at me, I look back at him, I close the door and I turn to the group. I explain to the group that we should get ready for a fight, and they ask why, and right about that time, the minotaur starts slamming his face into the wall, trying to bust out, because he was obviously too big for that. So we all prepare attacks for a surprise round. When the minotaur busts through the door,
He smashes rubble all in front of Mai where she is unable to get through. So Mai's attack's now useless. So with what little surprise damage we had left between me, Leo, Zilla, and Hadassah now, we were able to do a big chunk of health, but not a whole lot. Luckily, we rolled high enough on initiative on that next fight. We get through the fight very easily. I explained the entire time that we should leave the head so I can take it with me. Of course, the group declined, and Hadassah smited its face off with her light cleric powers. She took the jaw from the bottom of the head and separated it from the top. I was very upset, but I decided just to take its horns, but Leo took its great axe. The great axe gave Leo a bloodlust, taking what little sanity he had left and kind of just throwing it in the dump. His eyes start to glow, but we don't make very much note of it, and we move on. After this, we go to the unlocked room, which had a chest in it. We search the room for anything else, and we find a bag of gems. We go to the chest and we find out it's locked. I try to unlock it, I roll a nat 20, but of course it didn't matter because we needed to do certain things with the gems to the chest. We start off with a basic gem, a blue one. Everyone stands back while I put the gem into the chest. It opens, and there's this clear liquid that erupts from it. We take a canteen worth and we close the chest back. We make note of the chest and we mention that we want to come back for it. The DM agrees and we move on. We continue through the dungeon, seeing our first major monster encounter. Our first snake lady with 4 arms. Kinda cool, until she surrounds us with her little skeleton monsters. But the DM allowed the light cleric to do double damage to necrotic monsters. So, Sailor Moon style, Hadassah vaporizes all of the skeletons. Leo chops the snake lady in half. I decide I'm gonna take her body and all the ashes. And we find a fat bandit, just relaxing, trying to figure out what's going on. He meant no harm, and then we kill him. I decide I want his head. I want to make it talk, but not this time. We go to this room that only has 2 entrances. We see a chest at the corner, and we decide to open it. Of course it's a mimic. Why would it not be a mimic? Mai almost has her arm bit off, but we kill it, and I take its body parts. We barricade the doors into this room, and we take a long rest. We wake up from a noise on the door. It's Hashimon again, with a new player named Iroh. He introduces us, tells us Iroh has a specific mission here. Of course, he didn't tell us what it was, so we kind of blew it off, welcomed Iroh to the team, and we moved on. Hadassah says she's going to pray to her god to kind of get us some help. She fails on her roll, so I'm like, I'm going to pray to my god, Duma. My god is a neutral god and an asshole. I roll a nat 1. He comes down, flips me off, and then alerts everything in the dungeon, and then leaves without a second of remorse. The party looks at me like they're gonna kill me, but I digress. So we decide we're gonna make our last stand in this room. We unbarricade the doors. Mai, Leo, and Zilla take the left. Me and Iroh take the bottom right with our arrows. I get up on a table, and because I have the sharpshooter trait and sneak attack and assassin, I was able to do a lot of damage to everything as it was walking by. Iroh goes down very quickly. I couldn't blame him. His rolls were getting very, very unlucky. We blamed Mai for pushing off her bad luck onto Iroh. There was a knight that tried to enter the room. We shall name him Tony. Hadassah says she's going to marry this man, and the knight believes her. With her rolling high enough in persuasion, he goes past Hadassah and goes straight for Mai, almost killing Mai in one hit. But we eventually get through it. We have to take another long rest, but it works out. We continue up this hallway, and I take point because I'm sneaky and I'm stealthy. We get to the end of the hallway, and I look past the corner, and there's this giant flesh monster that's attached to the ground. I'm absolutely terrified, but of course the rest of the group couldn't see it, and I was trying to explain it to him. But by the time I was able to explain it to him, the DM asked me to roll an Arcana check. I roll an 18. He says, the head tells you that something's coming. And about that time, we hear a voice go through our heads. Kill the minions. And it was the flesh monster telling its little spider creatures to come kill us. So of course, I wanted to be badass, and I said, can I use Skulker and roll stealth to hide between these 2 pillars right here? The DM agrees, and I roll high enough to do so. So we take on this boss, taking out its minions first, and then just everyone on their turn would walk up, throw an axe or shoot an arrow at it, and then walk back. And this went on for about 30 minutes till we eventually killed it. When I finally got a good look at this demon, can I roll to cut its head off, its heart, and everything else inside it? The DM agrees, and I do so. I roll a 19. I cut its head off, I put it on my back. I have to move at half speed now. I have its heart, its lungs, and some internal organs stuffed into my bag. My bag at this point is really not too heavy, but it's full of just blood and gore. Party calls me weird, but it's okay. I'll take it. We get past this section, and we move on. We get to this hallway, splits left, and then goes right. There's a door on the right, and we open it. There's a demon named the Butcher, and they're slaughtering all of Hadassah's people. We kill it abruptly. I said I want its head too, but I'm unable to achieve it. Hadassah looks for any survivors, and she finds one, a blacksmith woman. We take her, we tell her how to get out of here and how to get back to the village. She runs, she leaves the dungeon. Then we go up to the left. As we get to the left, there's this monster there, guarding a door. Everyone says we should kill him, but I'm like, no. What if we can make him on our side? DM says, roll me for persuasion. I say, hello, Mr. Monster Man. If you swear your allegiance to me, I roll a 19. I needed a nat 20. He accepted that I could pass, but no one else could, so we eventually have to kill him. I was very sad about it, but it happens. We get to a room on the other side that has Leo's father in it, who's very wounded, and a female child. I said, fuck that kid, she's pale, and I don't trust her for a second. And right about that time, the DM tells me to roll Arcana again, and I do. I roll an 18 this time. He says, you don't quite know where, but there's a necromancer here that you can feel is very, very powerful. I say, sweet, it's the kid. And right about that time, 2 skeletons erupt from the ground outside and start to attack us. We take them out quite easily, not knowing what really happened. I ask my head if the child is the necromancer. The head says no, but he's further into the dungeon. And I said, cool. So we move on. That's where I'll have to leave it off this time for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I can continue to make good content for you guys. If you guys do like this, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification, and if you really like it, maybe hit the like button. You don't have to, but it helps.